Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights to help you with your business journeys. In today's episode, I'm excited. I'll be chatting with Bryan O'Rourke, my good friend, CEO of Core Health and Fitness, and president of the Fitness Industry Technology Council. So I've actually taken Bryan away from his busy duties to actually go through the European Fitness Trends Report. Bryan, welcome to the Wexer podcast. Well, this is the second time, actually.
It's been a while. Yeah, thanks. It's been a while, I think. I don't know when we did the last one, but it's great to see you, Paul, and in beautiful New Zealand. I'm on the West Coast and outside of Los Angeles today. It's a beautiful day today. So always a pleasure to see you, Paul. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at FIBO in a couple of weeks and attending the European Health and Fitness Forum, which is always a favorite of mine.
Nice, perfect. And then before we actually get into the trend report, what did I ask everyone this question? But I'd like to hear the answer from you. Did you find fitness, or did fitness find you? What's the background to you actually entering the industry?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but like anything, I guess it depends on who you'd ask. As far as who found what or who found what. Yeah, like a lot of people, I'd been involved in the industry indirectly for a long time, and then through a number of different connections, and it kind of just evolved, organically. So, like anything in my life, it seems.
Oh, there's so many stories. I just want to probe into that, but we'll focus on the European Trend Report. So, look, talk to me. What are the growth factors that are driving the European market right now, in your opinion?
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of the global trends. And by the way, for the audience, you're going to be able to get this report online right before FIBO. So please, you'll see it on various channels. It's both a Core and Wexer undertaking, and we rely on information from across the industry and from Europe Active, et cetera. And as you saw it, and when you do see it to the audience, obviously membership growth is pretty robust in 2023, which is a great positive. And, it's 5 key factors in general that are driving most of this. Of course, first off is increased awareness of health in general. Another is the diverse number of fitness and wellness options in the marketplace. Then beyond just fitness into health, which we're seeing those drivers, and then technology integration. And finally, the bifurcation of the market with more and more alternatives, competitive price offerings, which, lower price models have been a big part of expansion around the world. That's making the product and experiences even more accessible. So I think it's a combination of those factors, really supported by megatrends that we've been talking about for a very long time. All of these are fueling a rising of all boats. The tide's lifting and all the boats are rising. That's my opinion. And the report, by the way, bears it out.
No, I think it's a great report. And looking into the clubs directly, so personal training, HIIT, small group training, weight loss programs, they're kind of, I would say Europe's a little bit leading in that space across the world. But what do they need to do? What do clubs need to be looking at to stay relevant, I guess, within those, how they deliver within the clubs?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? So Paul, we touched on overall health as a key driver, some of the key driving factors. I think when it comes to programming, we cannot ignore just GLP-1, but other medical therapies that are coming available in the market that are really impacting weight loss and the implications for that. Because as you know, plenty of science on this, the need for strength training when getting on these types of drugs is very important because you want to maintain, your muscle mass. And that is going to have some impact. I think the Ozempic impact, as they've said. But on a bigger scale for any operator, I think it's more important. And in Europe in particular, and before I get into this answer, I want to say, and if you've heard me speak around the world in the last decade, I've always contended that Europe has the most sophisticated operators in the world. Both in technology adoption and business models. McFit really led the low price model, actually. There are a lot of dynamics that are coming from Europe, but like any business, I think it's more important than ever for businesses to really understand what business model they're trying to execute on and why. What is their competitive strategy? Looking from the standpoint of driving revenues, that's being done through ancillary services, higher retention, higher price points, while lowering cost, and addressing the current state of the user experience and where you need to look to be when it comes to the user experience, given the business model that you want to execute. That sounds like a very general notion, but in truth, Paul, I think you got to really have answers to those questions before you start moving forward with various things that seem appealing, so that it's being done for good business reasons, right?
Is it fair, going a little bit off the topic, is it fair to say the European market is a little bit more mature in its segmentation, like the high end, the mid, and the low? It's very, very clear, where I always feel like when I go to the US, there's always, other than probably Planet Fitness, very, very clear on their proposition. Everyone else is kind of, it's interesting. You can feel like you're going into a premium club, but it's actually priced low cost, or the other way around. You feel like you're going into a low cost club, and it's actually priced quite high. Do you think there's something in that, because of the density of a lot of these clubs and the competition with a lot of these clubs, they've had to understand their business model maybe a little bit more, and to be competitive, or is that unfair?
That's a really, really good question. I think there are a variety of things that implicate themselves when it comes to answering the question. So for one, Europe's made up of a bunch of different countries. And, in certain of those countries, the availability of real estate that fits the bill is a little more challenging. I remember Barry's having particular challenges in certain markets because dealing with finding the right kind of real estate dynamic was a real impediment to penetration. Because some countries, they're older, they have different regulatory dynamics. So, but yes, you can see some variations quite a bit. That's one factor. Another factor, I think, in the US is that a lot of people reacted in the middle market to the bifurcation of the market and increasing surge of low price. And they reacted to it because of membership threats. And they dropped their pricing, that in response, and not necessarily being the absolute right thing to do. I think there are many different dynamics that feed that, but I would say that Europe in general is a bit more mature. I think that one of the evidences of that is, especially when you look at some of the Nordic countries, is the adoption of technologies, Paul. I mean, RFID in Europe is a far more common tech tool than it is in the US.
Well, just even online sales was done 20 years ago, right? I mean, that was the only way that we could survive, is online sales.
Yes, and because a lot of countries in Europe face higher operating costs, and so they had to deal with things like automation. And Wexer is an example. Europe had a higher initial penetration rate with your digital solution. So, I think there are different economic factors. There are different market factors. There are a lot of factors.
Yeah, no, that's well. And then with the GLP-1s, it's talking to a lot of American boards and CEOs. They're right on it. They're trying to work out a way to work with it. But I feel like the Europeans actually don't even know what it is. I think they know the general principle of it, but I'm actually surprised at their thinking. Like, is that an opportunity for the European club operators to see how the GLP-1s? Is there an opportunity? And then are the GLP-1s actually going to the right people that actually need it? Because at the moment, I'm feeling like it's more of a let's call middle class that are taking these pills that need to shred a little bit of weight, rather than the actual people that probably need it. Two questions in there.
Yes. No, that's right. Well, as you know, a lot of the European countries have nationalized health solutions. And they have, as a result, pricing negotiating power when it comes to drug providers and pharma. You're aware in the United States that it doesn't exist. The United States customer pays as much as 400% to 600% more on average, I think, are the numbers, for the same or suitable pharmaceutical solutions. And yes, in the U.S. in particular, there is an issue around this, because health plans that are private insurance in the United States, some of them are going along with the reimbursement for it, others not. And then you put that cost dynamic in with, the issues of reimbursement, and then you can see that people with extra money, it's going to be easier in theory for them to get a hold of the drug. But invariably, for any nation that is dealing with obesity, and GLP-1 will not be the only therapies. I mean, we expect to see pharma to come out with more solutions. So I think to the extent that the governments in Europe with nationalized health plans can see the case studies showing the efficacy of the solutions for general population health, I think there's going to be wider adoption of those in the end than there might be in the US for a period of time.
And do you think there's a threat? Like I saw Opposemic actually starting to create their own content because I think you highlighted on the top of the call was the fact that the need for weight training. They're saying that the best results result in someone that manages their metabolism, increases their metabolism through weight training. Like does that become a threat? Well, they've got to use gyms, right? So it should be a partnership.
No, I think it's definitely a positive because one of the number one barriers to entry for people is their self-consciousness about their weight. They tell themselves, everyone knows this, I want to lose 20 pounds before I go to the gym. Well, that's why a lot of them never join. And so to the extent you having a therapy that helps people get a head start, and then you get some good advice on how to make it work for you through strength training and et cetera, because ultimately it comes down to lifestyle change and adopting lifestyle choices. And so the drug can really assist people getting a place if they're combining it with the right physical activity programs like strength training into really getting a permanent impact on people's health, which is what we all want.
Yeah, and that flows nicely to my next question about customized workouts. Like, it feels to me that again, from a European standpoint, there's a lot of conversations about how do we personalize, how do we customize. What do you see as the future in regards to personalization and customization?
Yeah, well, there's a few things about this that I'm going to tell you that I think some people might find a bit controversial, and I don't mean to be, but yeah, I think that the first thing is that at least in certain countries, certifications for instructor and fitness professionals are really in decline for a variety of reasons. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think the dynamics are that we have new platforms, digital platforms that enable trainers or professionals to go direct to consumer. The compensation levels for professionals have not really kept up. With the gig economy for young people, there are plenty of options to do other things. And so, when you think about personalization and you think about having a trainer doing that human to human, that's going to exist. I mean, the Equinoxes and the David Lloyds and other different types of solutions will have those. But I think increasingly it's going to be hard to execute on that model without getting a super high premium. So in the rest of the market, I think when it comes to personalization, digital and thoughtful user experience design, both in and out of club, is omnichannel is going to become the norm. And, for any concept, and if you're looking at Basic Fit, or you're looking at Planet in the US, or you're looking at whoever you're looking at, or even a little tier up, because the availability of labor is going to continue to be a challenge globally, I believe. And so you're going to have to, when it comes to personalization, people are going to want that. They really want that. I mean, look at Amazon or any e-commerce platform you might use in Europe, and it's all about that, right? So, I think though that the thing is that we're going to have to use digital tools, and you saw the announcement, Paul, I'm sure in the last couple of days with Google and Fitbit and AI coming into that, and so many things like what Wexer does in the realm of helping chains reach people in an omni-channel and personalized way. If I'm looking for a yoga solution or a wellness solution or a cardio solution or strength, where you have availability of all that instructive motivational content at your fingertips, both in club and outside of club, that's just table stakes today. I mean,
that's the basics.
you need to be thinking about that.
Yeah, well, and I just always think about it from a trainer's model as point as well. The trainer can only scale themselves a certain point. So if you're good enough, you can scale yourself so rapidly now. So how much has the impact been because of but both models, people wanting the hyper personalization, omni-channel convenience, but also the fact of the great trainers now have the ability to train all. And I
Yes.
always say, and you've heard me say this many times, Bryan, but we're so many operators worldwide, not just in Europe, are sitting on so many amazing trainers that actually under
Right.
your platform and under your reach have the ability to be the superstars that they want to be as well. So it's actually a really nice symbiotic relationship if executed well, which we've seen with the likes of Smart Fit and Basic Fit and RSG Group.
That's exactly right. That's a very important thing that you're pointing out, because think about it in other industries. Like in the United States, Walmart. Would Walmart be
Mm.
putting Amazon product on their shelves to sell to their customers? You not only have the issue of modifying or kind of amplifying your own brand experiences in digital ways, but you also have to think about channel partners, and
Yes.
who are your competitors, and
Yes.
conflict in channels is another thing to think about when you're talking about executing this, because I guarantee you Aldi is not putting on its shelves digital competitors where it's sitting for its customer. And we need to think about that with certain brands. I mean, if you're going to be in the omni-channel world, which you really need to be, you want to be promoting your content or a bevy of other content that is not directly competing with you in the digital world, right?
Totally. I couldn't have said
Yeah,
it better, Bryan.
yeah.
And we know it,
So that's yeah,
and we've talked about it on this podcast. A lot of listeners have heard this, but fundamentally, local star content is winning the game right now. And the great thing is,
yes,
what local
that's right.
star content is in your clubs delivering sessions on a regular basis. The reality is, we've
Yes,
got to find a way to create a business model that supports them. And from a Wexer point of view, we feel like we've got that, but many other operators have got that as well. It's how let's incentivize those trainers to grow your platform as a fitness operator. And I think some clubs have really realized that, but some clubs haven't set
yep.
themselves up to execute it. So it's a lot to change. Well, and I guess that from a viewpoint yourself, Bryan, like how do how do traditional operators go from what they're doing right now and their paradigm right now to they always talk about every business needs to become a content business. Like, where's the balance that you would give advice to be able to execute digital in the best way?
Yeah, well, again, it gets back to the point of strategy. You have to have a business strategy. And it's basic. How are you going to compete, and understanding what that means and why? And then from there, you go and you map your user experience that you're currently delivering. And then you look at what the future state of that is. And then you figure out
Yes.
how you're going to thoughtfully kind of navigate that divide of implementing those things in a process that gets you where you need to be, and that drives your
Yes.
business decisions. And that's it. And really around that, you need to have the right kind of expert partners to advise you, who have experience and perspective on the alternatives and why one
Yes.
thing is better than another. I mean, what you don't want to do, if I had to go to a doctor to get a surgical procedure, I'm not going to read a bunch of books and then get my knife out and go to work. I mean, and
Well said.
people even try to do that, and
Yes.
that's really a mistake. But it's very fundamental.
Yeah.
I've lectured on this. If you Google my name with user experience design, there'll be plenty of stuff that comes up to share and
You make
consume.
it very simple, which I think is great for listeners to hear. Like
Yeah,
the because my viewpoint on the digital side is that, do we, like, from an opportunistic point of view, we know that the B2C or D2C market is actually struggling, right? And we know their fundamental issue is their CAC to LTV ratios
yeah,
are off,
yeah,
where the club operator already has the database. So to integrate a
yeah,
digital commercial avenue, it doesn't even have to be commercial avenue, just be focused on lifetime value, is the
yeah.
opportunity is now. Don't you think? I know I'm sitting on the buy, so feel free to challenge me. But like, I'm seeing a market where it's actually struggling on the D2C side, but we're seeing people that are executing their proposition as a part of an overall member journey, especially omni-channel and the commercial means behind it, is succeeding. Is that fair or?
Yeah, so for those of you in Kalamazoo who may not know, CAC is customer acquisition cost, and
Thank
LTV
you.
is lifetime value. Just so everyone understands what we're saying, and what Paul's really talking about is strategy. So what he's saying is that in the direct-to-consumer market, D2C, you've seen a lot of businesses really struggle and fail. I mean, Bowflex Nautilus just filed for bankruptcy. Peloton is suffering big time. All these brands, Tonal, all these companies were doing this, and now they've done that. And the reason for that is two basic things. Number one was a lack of pent-up demand because of COVID, where people bought a bunch of equipment to have in their homes. And the second thing was in the pure digital case, you have to spend a lot of money in digital marketing to actually attract and obtain new users. It's very competitive in that world. So what Paul is saying, and I'll answer your question, is basically, hey, if you already have a business model in a facility and you already have a membership base, you're not going to have to spend nearly as much money acquiring, if any, acquiring these digital customers who are out there looking for digital content and personalized solutions anyway. So that you're not doing this, and some major chains have done this, you're just leaving money on the table. And you're also opening yourself up for erosion in your existing base to the extent digital competes with what you're doing. So that is why it's imperative for people to have an idea of what business are they running and why, and where the opportunities are that they're missing, and what the opportunities are they're avoiding. I mean, it's just basic strategy.
Yeah. And as you highlighted, the consumers are looking for these options anyway. So it's you might as well serve the need that they need, especially with the combining of the physical and the digital is by far the best experience for the user. So I love that. But then looking to consumer trends, and of course the Europe Active Consumer Survey has come out. Like what was your highlights from that survey?
Well, obviously consumers and their penchant for different program offerings, also their penchant for digital consumption, what they're seeking increasingly. I mean, all those things. And speaking to that as well, I saw your podcast with the leadership at NovoFit, where other hybrid offerings like Pilates, where they're using digital displays with coaches. So when we're talking about digital versus personal, I also want to mention that there are these other combination of hybrid applications of these things where you can deliver a personalized touch at scale so you can focus on the things like coaching a form and use in Pilates is a big deal without having someone being on a Pilates machine who really can't do that well. And the reason I bring that up in light of these trends that we're going to see in the report, some of which I touched upon, is as things become increasingly digitized outside of the four walls of the club, and you think of things like socializing, these other components, and you see Google's announcement with Fitbit and AI, and you see Apple and what they're about to do with either OpenAI or Google, where Siri is going to be replaced with a whole new thing. Google's offering is going to be replaced with a whole new thing, where this is going to be a digitized health coach that's going to be, you see my ears right here? Yes, your ears right there. It's going to be talking to you and giving you real-time data all the time. So this is going to become ubiquitous. So the question of how you diversify your offering becomes more and more important because, and that's why these hybrid solutions, for example, are a very great advantage, because while people will use digital experiences like Wexer's mobile content or other things, they'll want the human experience as well, just delivered in different ways that touch on what people are looking for, but not necessarily with the cost dynamics that you would experience in a traditional club setting. So this is why strategy, in my opinion, and really thinking through the business model you want to run based on how you compete becomes so incredibly important for operators today to meet those needs and trends that consumers are moving increasingly to and be relevant in the years to come.
Perfectly said. And for like in terms of looking ahead, what are the overarching trends do you believe will define the the European fitness and wellness industry?
Yeah, well, we know one of them is holistic services.
Mm.
So, you're talking about, recovery, sleep, nutrition,
Yeah, yeah,
these kind of solutions, particularly in the higher end clubs, but also in even low price models. I think health integration. Obviously, there are going to be trends. Right now, strength is a major trend
yeah, yeah,
globally,
yeah.
and it's cross demographic. I've go to clubs all over the world. I was touring a bunch of them in Southern California in the last month with a well-known operator here, and he's pulling out major aspects of
Mm.
his cardio line, putting racks
Mhm.
in, and you're seeing
Mm.
25, 27, 30, 50, 55-year-old women on
Yeah,
racks doing
yeah,
squats.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
so strength training is a real deal today. But as the science will move things here and there, and
Sure.
the programming formalities will kind of evolve. We're going to see
Yes.
aesthetics become a bigger point of differentiation.
Yeah,
Um, we talked about screens.
yeah,
Screens are continuing to become ubiquitous. Content and the kind of sense of delivery that facilities provide. But from a consumer standpoint, I think holistic health and integrative wellness, with fitness being a big component of that, is increasingly where the market is heading. Don't you agree?
so what couldn't have said it better myself. Actually, they were talking about people moving out cycling in particular to put in strength. That was amazing in the US. I
Yes.
think I went to probably about 15 clubs during URSA, and I think every single one had done that. I
Yes.
think the argument for me would be, and what I don't understand as a trend is, I understand the operator putting signs out essentially saying, "Hey, only come in here for trainer." But the
Yeah.
reality is, there's such a drive and such a demand. People are going to go lift those bars anyway. So I think
Yes.
we, as an industry, we need to be able to find a way to be able to put content to them so they can actually be more educated going into it, rather than following a YouTube clip with someone lifting and doing clean and jerk and all the rest of it. But I think it's a great trend.
Yes.
But I just didn't realize how real that was actually until LA.
Yeah, it's incredibly real. And to your point of
Mm,
content, when you're dealing with people using racks and other things for the
yes.
first time,
Mm,
they need guidance. And when you look
correct.
at the issue of a lot of clubs now don't invest on the fitness floor like they used to. I mean,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
you have a lot of people who are looking at things and doing things oftentimes in harmful ways they don't even
Yes.
realize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having content close by or a user experience that makes their gaining mastery and efficiency in the
Yes.
application of the training is really important for people getting results and feeling good and not
Mm,
stupid
mm.
about what
Yes.
they're
Yes.
doing,
Yes. Yes.
because it is not like a cardio machine where you push the start
No.
button and you start jogging.
But I think there's also, in as a from an operator on the gym floor, if your standards are high in terms of what your content looks like in regards to the quality of the instruction, it actually grows the level, because the trainers have to be better than that, right?
Yes.
To add value, which, so it's a great win-win for the customer in my view. But it's just, I just found it like, you hear so many trends, and
Yeah.
you go, okay, is this actually reality? But that feels real, like in terms
Oh,
of such a
it's
huge
real.
move. Yeah, but and I
It's
think
real.
I think it's a great thing to see, like thinking about, I think the original premise when I used to design clubs and stuff was, putting barbells and racks right in front of someone is one of the most intimidating things you can see. But it feels like
Yes.
we've actually leaped that, and people are actually wanting a gravity, like are going towards the big barbell, which, from a big CrossFit fan, that makes me happy.
Yes. Yes. It's also the reason why people have tremendous issues like
Well,
torn. Yeah. So
back
to
injuries,
your
knee injuries.
yeah, it's that's the part we need to be aware of and educate
That's
people
true.
around so that it's not a bad experience, right?
What is it? Every time we create a solution, we also create another problem, right? So
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes. Yes, that's right. It's
Yeah.
every technology is invented to solve the problems the technology before it unwittingly created that we didn't anticipate, right?
So much better said. You know what I mean? We need to do the show together, I think, Brian.
Yeah, let's do
No,
it.
so
We can do one in FIBO. You and I will gang up on somebody and tag
oh,
team them with an interview.
let's get one of the European operators in there. I'm sure they'll love that. Love it. So then of course you're at FIBO, but how do people connect with you, Bryan?
Well, Google my name, Bryan with a Y, O'Rourke. It's O'Rourke. Put the apostrophe in or not. The middle initial is K, so Bryan K. O'Rourke. And I'm on LinkedIn, all the major social channels. Google me, connect with me. I share a lot of content, and I cannot wait to see you at the European Health and Fitness Forum and at FIBO, my favorite event all year long. Love Cologne, love the European market, and lots of friends there. So it's always a delight to be able to see people when I attend.
Bryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're doing this again. I think we need to do a duo, if I'm honest. But really appreciate everything you do for the industry. I mean that, my friend. I know we're colleagues now, but you've done some amazing things and for the betterment of our industry, and I appreciate that.
Well, so have you and the team at Wexer, who've done incredible things, being innovators in helping a lot of clubs get better at what they need to be thinking on.
I appreciate that as well. Thank you for joining me on the Wexer podcast, Bryan.
Thank you, Paul.